Welcome to Words on the Outside with Laura Bynum. Today's reading features Gary Close, an author whose inspirations include Ernest Hemingway, Robert Heinlein, and Michael Crichton. Reading from his sci-fi action-adventure novel, Breakout, The Roswell Legacy. His reading proceeds from Chapter 1 with an introduction to his main character.
Beijing, China State Security Directorate Building. Chao Zing lit another cigarette from the tip of the one he had just finished and sucked hard until a satisfying rush of unfiltered smoke curled its way into his lungs. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled, one cigarette in each hand. With eyes closed and in a well-practiced move, he ground out the used butt into an overflowing ashtray on his desk, scattering flecks of gray ash onto the mahogany surface. He was on to something, and it was massive. Dressed in a Western business suit, Chow could have fit into any American or European business office like one of the 20 or so million other Chinese who had modernized during the past decades. But unlike his compatriots who dressed in Western fashion and tried to mimic Western culture as much as possible, Chow had in fact obtained 5 years earlier a degree in electrical engineering at San Diego State University, living, as it were, in the heart of American excess. Tall and thin, the 26-year-old Chow still hungered for the wide-open atmosphere of America, admiring and despising it at the same time. Conflicted as he was, obsessing as he did with all things American, he often thought it odd that something so removed physically from his life in China would bedevil him so. But late at night, streaming Bruce Springsteen on his iPod, deep in his gin, he knew the real reason for the fascination and the repulsion. The real reason for the torment, because it faced him every month like clockwork. Every month he did something so disgusting, so horrifying, he could hardly believe it was he who did it. And hard as he might try to resist, in the end, like a dog nosing about a rotten carcass, he always came back to it, rolled in it, wallowed in it, snorted with pleasure, and reveled in it. Afterwards, after the episode, as he liked to call it, came the total release, the satisfaction, then a little later the repulsion. There followed always the self-hatred. Sometimes Chow wished the self-hatred would be deep enough to lead to a final solution. But even that release was denied him. He thought if he loved someone hard enough, devotedly enough, sacrificially enough, he could somehow wash himself, cure himself of the evil that he did, and that had been a farce of the worst kind. His first attempt at love ended in disaster as the girl he courted discovered him in the midst of an episode. She ran screaming into the night. It had started in San Diego. He was at Point Loma watching the sunset over the silver Pacific. Alone in a foreign land, he had often taken solitary jaunts around the port city, and there he would sit and wonder about his life and how it came to be that he existed seemingly alone on this spinning globe. Alone and yet somehow meant for something larger, some great thing that came from the uniqueness that was Chow. It was the delusion of many young men, he realized, but nonetheless he believed that somehow he, Chow Zing, was destined to do a great thing. Chow's mind often slipped back to that one moment of innocent youthful aching and yearning, watching the golden sun slip beneath the Pacific. And then, weeks later, waking in Balboa Park, dirty, disheveled, under a bush next to the Spreckles Organ Pavilion. In between, nothing. And then, like the rushing waves that precede the tide, one episode after another swept over him, engulfed him, consumed him. In the end, he got out of San Diego as fast as he could, with hope that the episodes would end, only find that they merely followed him to Beijing. Today, however, all the self-examination, all the anger melted away as he read the reports on his desk and smoked cigarette after cigarette. Intense curiosity and an unrelenting desire to quench that curiosity overwhelmed even the memory of what he had done the night before. Chow had discovered an odd sequence of transmission reports in the mass of material he routinely read. At first the material meant nothing. Then a pattern emerged, and after running some computer simulations, he came to a startling conclusion, a massively important conclusion. The Americans were routinely launching or tracking launches outside the planetary orbit of Earth. Although insofar as he understood the present level of American technology, that was impossible. There was no chance that what the material indicated was in fact happening, and yet it was happening routinely. and effortlessly. Leaning forward, he punched a button on his desk phone for a direct scrambled line to a superior in the directorate. It was a bold thing for a junior analyst to do, but Chow wanted to get back to America. He wanted to confront his demons there, and he wanted to learn more about what it was he had just learned, a desire almost as strong as the first stages of an episode itself.